was no deputy anywhere for Virgil van Dijk. Composure itself, utterly imperturbable.
Well, good afternoon from Merseyside, where there's only one topic of conversation. Is Van Dijk the missing piece in the jigsaw? At 26, Virgil van Dijk has a chance to become an Anfield legend.
In 2019, Lionel Messi won the Ballon d'Or. But the man who finished second wasn't a striker, a winger, or a playmaker. It was a defender who cost £75 million and, for 50 straight games, didn't let a single soul run past him. In a sport obsessed with goals, highlights, and attacking genius, Virgil van Dijk forced the football world to stop and confront something it had almost forgotten: what true defensive dominance actually looks like. Football has always treated defenders differently. They are expected to react, to recover, to clean up mistakes made elsewhere on the pitch. Attackers are artists, defenders are insurance. But Van Dijk didn't fit into that hierarchy. At his peak, he wasn't responding to danger. He was preventing it from ever existing. For 2 full seasons, the best attackers on the planet stopped trying to beat him. They passed sideways, they turned back, they waited. And that alone tells you everything about how good he really was. What makes Van Dijk's rise even more remarkable is how late it began. This was not a teenage prodigy groomed for greatness. While players like Messi and Neymar were being fast-tracked into superstardom, Virgil van Dijk was being rejected. He was released by Willem II. He was told he was too slow, too awkward, too raw to make it at the highest level. At one point, he wasn't living a footballer's life at all. He was washing dishes in a restaurant in Breda, trying to keep his career alive, while the sport quietly moved on without him. By the time he finally broke through at FC Groningen, Van Dijk was already in his early 20s, an age when elite football has usually decided who you are and where you belong. There was no hype around him, no scouting frenzy, no sense of inevitability. He was simply a tall, composed centre-back trying to survive. But even then, the signs were there. He wasn't reckless. He didn't panic. He read the game like someone who had spent years being overlooked, patient, observant, and deliberate. His move to Celtic in 2013 felt like a step sideways rather than forward. Scotland was not where global stars were made. It was where potential went to be tested or forgotten. But inside that league, Van Dijk didn't just stand out. He towered over it. He dominated physically, but more importantly, he controlled games with calm. He stepped into midfield with the ball. He picked passes that broke lines. He defended without desperation. In 2 seasons, he won multiple league titles, became a leader, and established himself as one of the most complete defenders in Britain. Still, the wider football world didn't pay attention. The league was dismissed. The performances were minimised. So when he moved to Southampton, it was framed as a gamble rather than a warning. But at Southampton, the illusion collapsed completely. Van Dijk wasn't learning on the job. He was already elite. He handled Premier League strikers with ease. He organised defensive lines. He carried authority that couldn't be taught. This wasn't potential anymore. This was proof. Top clubs noticed, but few understood what they were seeing. When Liverpool paid £75 million for a defender in January 2018, the reaction was disbelief. The fee was mocked. The logic was questioned. No defender, critics said, was worth that kind of money. But Liverpool weren't buying tackles or clearances. They were buying control. And almost immediately, everything changed. From the moment Van Dijk arrived, Liverpool stopped looking fragile. The chaos disappeared. The panic vanished. He didn't shout. He didn't dive in. He stood his ground and bent the game around him. From 2018 to 2020, he entered a defensive peak that modern football had never seen. For 50 Premier League games, not one player dribbled past him. 50 games against the fastest, most technical attackers in the world, and none of them succeeded. This wasn't because he tackled relentlessly. It was because he didn't need to. His positioning eliminated angles before attackers even received the ball. His presence dictated decisions. Players chose safety over ambition. And in a sport where attacking confidence is everything, Van Dijk quietly erased it. In 2019, he led Liverpool to a Champions League title and pushed his team to historic levels in the league. Individually, he broke a barrier no defender had crossed before. He finished second in the Ballon d'Or voting, ahead of the world's best attackers. He won UEFA Men's Player of the Year, the only defender in history to do so. But this is where the conversation turns into a battleground. Because in the Premier League, greatness isn't just measured in ability, it's measured in time. Critics, especially those in Manchester and London, will look at the careers of John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, or Nemanja Vidic and ask a valid question. Can 2 or 3 perfect seasons really outweigh a decade of dominance? It is the classic dilemma of peak versus longevity. Terry and Ferdinand were the iron standards for 15 years. They built dynasties. By comparison, Van Dijk built a moment. He doesn't have their trophy count, and he doesn't have their longevity. But flip the argument around. At their absolute best, did any of them reach this level of invincibility? Did John Terry ever go 50 games without being dribbled past? Did Rio Ferdinand ever finish second in the Ballon d'Or? This is the question that defines his legacy, and I want to ask you, if you had one match to win to save your life, who are you choosing? The defender who was world-class for a decade, or the one who, for 2 years, was literally unbeatable? Pause the video and let me know your pick in the comments, because the answer isn't as simple as you think. For a brief moment, football admitted something it rarely does. That defense could be just as influential as brilliance in attack. Then, in October 2020, everything stopped. A reckless challenge in the Merseyside derby tore his ACL. The injury wasn't just physical, it froze momentum. It interrupted a prime that looked unstoppable. And football asked a familiar question. Had we already seen the best of him? History suggested the answer would be yes. Defenders rarely return the same after injuries like that, especially not at that age. But Van Dijk didn't try to be the same player. When he returned, he evolved. He relied less on physical dominance and more on anticipation. His reading of the game became sharper. His leadership became central. He adjusted his positioning, conserved energy, and played with an intelligence that came only from experience and patience. Liverpool regained control. Clean sheets returned. Stability followed. And that's where Van Dijk's true greatness lives. Not just in his peak, but in his adaptability. He didn't burn out early. He didn't disappear after injury. He reshaped himself and remained elite in a game that rarely allows second versions of greatness. So how good was Virgil van Dijk? He arrived late. He peaked higher than anyone thought possible. And for a brief window, he forced the sport to rethink the value of defense itself. Attackers didn't stop dribbling past him because they were afraid of getting tackled. They stopped because they knew it was pointless. And that fear, that total psychological submission, is the true measure of his legacy. In 2019, the voters said he was the second best player in the world. But if you ask the strikers who had to face him, they will tell you there was no one better.